Right.
Share your lunch?
Yes, we have all kinds of stuff for you.
Coffee?
Ernie supply a lot. Hi, Ernie.
All right, we are live.
Stand for pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America.
To the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is a public hearing, City of Shelton Water Pollution Control Authority public hearing dated Tuesday, November 10th, 2020, in the Shelton Auditorium at 3:30 p.m. This is a public hearing to consider the cost increase per EDU as a benefit connection charge to the existing wastewater treatment plant. Is there anybody that wishes to be heard? Yes, sir. Your name, please?
Sure. My name is Stephen Bellis. I'm an attorney with the Pellegrino Law Firm, and I represent the Shelton Builders Association, Inc., which is a nonprofit corporation. If I could have the floor, I'll make my remarks.
Go ahead, Steve.
Step up to the podium, Steve, please.
Oh, okay.
If you'd be so kind to reiterate that so our clerk could get that information, try to enunciate.
Hard looking at it. Okay.
You're all set.
She's remote.
She's remote.
Okay. Again, my name is Stephen Bellis, B-E-L-L-I-S. I'm an attorney with the Pellegrino Law Firm in New Haven, and I represent the Shelton Builders Association, Inc. And the Shelton Builders Association, Inc. is a nonprofit corporation that was formed in 2007, and its purpose was to have members that are mostly builders and developers in Shelton. The board of directors is Bob Sindo. The president is Gary Filippo. And I'm not going to name all the members, but I'll give you a few of them. Al De Silva, Doug Nolan, Jim Blakeman, Angelo Malisi, Mark Tice, Marco Romano, Adrian Grasso. And I can go on. There's probably 15 or so. And the reason that we were formed back then was to just keep an eye out for things that happen in town that affect builders. And I think this is only my second time where I've had to come to speak. The first time was before the Planning and Zoning Commission. They wanted to make the R1 zone into 2 acres, and the builders didn't think that was fair, and I was able to persuade the Zoning Commission not to change the R1 zone up in White Hills to a 2 or 3 acre zone. This is the second time that we've come out, so we don't do this a lot. We're not a boisterous group. You won't see any of the members here other than me, but there's a reason why I'm here. And the reason is that we don't think it would be fair to impose an additional connection fee on the builders. Now, I understand that the WPCA has the authority to levy connection fees. I get it. But it says in your organization that the WPCA may establish fair and reasonable charges for connection for the use of the sewer system. And my argument is it's not fair to put that burden on the dozen or so builders in town because they're the only ones who are going to have to pay the additional fees, the additional connection fees we're talking about, not user fees. And so I did a little research, don't get excited. And I saw that you had the connection charges I'll talk about single-family homes. A rate benefit connection charges was on June 13th, 2007, and it went up to $2,100. So that's what we're talking about. Now you're talking about increasing that. So I looked at the city of Shelton and the sewer comprehensive plan. It's like 360 pages. I memorized about 350 pages. if you want to ask me anything about it, I can help you. But basically, it was a document that your board hired, Corallo, which was, I suspect, an engineering company, that wrote this 360-page document. And in it, they talk about connection charges. And they say the purpose of the connection charge is to promote equity between new and existing customers, but that the revenue can only be used to fund utility capital projects or pay debt services. Cannot be used for growth-related capital costs, which should be borne by existing customers. So then you look at 9.8.2, and they say that, you guys all know this, that the utility resources, revenue and connection charges are usually insufficient to cash fund your capital project. So they suggest that the city would have to look to funding and financing options, including bonds and whatever else. So at the end of the day, their conclusion, which is on the last page of the 362-page document, was, and I'll just quote it, the results of this analysis indicate that rate increases are necessary to correct an existing deficiency in sewer rates, fund ongoing operation needs, and identified capital program implementation of proposed rate increases should provide for continued financial viability. They also recognize that you can't just keep raising the rate. It creates a problem with affordability, so that the city will continue to pursue available grants and low-cost loans to minimize future rate increases. So my argument is, based upon your sewer plan, they do not state that there should be an increase in connection fees. So if there's any increase in the connection fees, it would be a violation of the sewer comprehensive plan that you guys all passed in 2013. So, to wrap it up, I understand that you need revenue. I get it. I understand that you have capital projects that are very, very expensive. And I understand that most of the town doesn't really know what the work that you people do. I understand that it costs a lot of money for these projects and for some of these improvements. But I really think if you go to the first thing I said, and you talk about establishing fair connection fees, that you shouldn't let 12 or 15 builders have to pay this increase. It's not going to change your financial situation. If there are 10 new homes built in this town, I'm just making a number up, what are we talking about, an extra $10,000? You say, well, they pass that on to the customer. No, that's not how it works. You guys know it. You build a house, builder builds a house, he has costs, the land, the connection fee, all the materials, and that number adds up to a certain number. If the number is $299,000, those are his costs. If the house is then put up for sale, the only thing you get is the fair market value, what a customer is willing to pay. If a customer is willing to pay $300,000, then he makes $1,000 profit. I'm using that as an example. So it cannot be passed on to the customer. No more so than if you have a lumber increase, which is significant now among the lumber industry is very high. Cost of lumber through the roof. You can't get certain 2x4 is like triple what it used to be. But anyway, those costs can't be passed on to a customer because the customer is only going to pay what he's going to pay for the house no matter what. So what you're really saying, and that's why I'm here, what you're really saying is we want these 12 guys, 15 guys, the builders in town, to eat $1,000 of their profit for every house they build. And I am saying to you that if you take yourself out of your role as WPCA people and say, is that really fair? The answer is no, clearly not. And I would suggest that if you do need more revenue, which I know you all do, that it would be more fair, to pass that on as perhaps a rate increase or get loans or grants from the city in order to pay for your very expensive infrastructure problems. I'm not minimizing solve your problem by increasing the connection fees of $1,000 or $500 or whatever number you pick on 12 people or on 15 people. It's just not gonna solve the problem for funding, and it's not fair to those 12 or 15 people. Somehow, I don't know why, but somehow the builders, you know, when there's a problem in town, when there's a snowstorm or an emergency and the Parks and Rec can't plow the roads, first call is to all the builders. The mayor calls the builders and says, can you get all your excavation equipment, bulldozers and whatnot, and plow the roads? We can't get our streets clean. So when there's a problem, the town has no problem calling up the builders and asking for their help. They get asked a lot of times, and I bet you they say yes 99% of the time. So it's not a bad group of people. It's just not a group that, I think it's that you should impose a tax on to the exclusion of the other 40,000 residents in this town. So, with that being said, I'm just trying to be a reasonable and fair person. I know you're concerned, but I'm asking you as a WPCA commission not to vote for an increase in connection fees. That's all I'm talking about. And because I think it's going to be borne by a small group of builders and developers in town, and it will not solve your financial problems, or even balance it out. So I'll be glad to answer any questions. As I said, I've only done this twice. We don't make a big stink around town.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Attorney Bellis, you make it seem like the builders only make like $1,000 profit. You realize that the minimum they're making is $100,000 on those sales, minimum.
I wish that were the case, because I am also a builder, and we do not make $100,000 anymore.
I've been a builder for 40 years.
My example does not mean that they only make $1,000. I was using that as an example. You do not make $100,000 anymore. You're not even making $50,000 sometimes anymore. It really depends on the town, and it really depends on the economy. I just finished building 15 houses in Newtown, and on a couple of them I lost $10,000 and $20,000 because it's whatever the market will bear, and costs go up. The cost of materials, windows, lumber, costs of permit fees. The Planning and Zoning Commission increased application fees. They increased. So it's an incremental problem. I didn't want to suggest that builders make $1,000 a house. If I did, I don't think I did it as an example, not to mislead you.
And you don't think the WPCA's expenses increase also?
I know they do.
Okay, so let the chairman and our consulting engineer answer the rest.
I know they increase. I said that in my presentation. I know you guys have bad costs. I get it. And I know that it's not something that the public looks at, which is a shame, because I know you guys serve an important role. We get that. No one's complaining about that. I don't see how the $10,000 you're going to collect in a year are going to solve your problem.
It's not $10,000 a year, it's per EDU we're talking about.
Well, I know how it works. What I'm saying is, there are not that many new connections. It's a one-time fee, right? It's not annual. So, how many new single-family homes are built in Shelton in a year?
One developer's putting in,
Single-family homes.
one developer's putting in 20-something in one area. That's one developer.
Yeah, but he doesn't.
And there's not just 7 developers out there.
Yeah, there are projects. I'm not saying there are, but there's not like, this isn't like Shelton in 1980s or 90s where there was a ton of construction going on. Well, single-family homes have slowed down. So there's not that many being built where you're going to get that extra $1,000 that's going to really put a big dent or help you with your finances.
What do you say for, not necessarily single family to pivot, but equivalent dwelling units, which is a residential dwelling unit? What what are we looking at over the next year or two, like, what, 500, 800?
EDUs.
800, new apartments and condos,
Yeah, in that area, and there's a
mini mansions.
slew of stuff coming before planning and zoning right now.
Yeah, so I guess to address that, the 2013, the sewer comprehension plan, you're saying that the benefit connection charges are not for, growth-related costs. And, this fee increase is unfortunate, we didn't catch it sooner. That kind of the issue is the same way that, you're not gonna pay for lumber and building supplies at the 2007 rates. The last time this was updated was 2007, and instead of updating it appropriately every couple years, a couple percent, which in hindsight would be a much more palatable situation, we kind of caught ourselves that this hasn't been updated since 2007. So it's kind of, originally the concept was, well, let's just update to today's rate using the basically the builder's cost, inflation index. But, kind of as a halfway point, instead of updating the full amount of 1,000, to kind of where we are today is how about we do half of that, which is still a lot of money, but, just to buy into the cost is for the buy-in of the existing sewer infrastructure, which would be a lot more to construct today than it would be when this stuff was put in years past. And we followed the same valuation method that was used to pass the 2,100 per EDU back in June of 2007. There's no new math, it's just what it cost then, plus the not even growth-related improvements, it's just the O&M cost to make the plant and the infrastructure continue to work as it does. And we actually did not include, costs for the sewer infrastructure that were paid through, referendum funding that the citywide has paid. These are costs that have come out of, we've tried to absorb in the sewer use fee. But this, when you connect now, this calculation is what the buy-in is for an EDU over that period of time. But, I agree with you wholeheartedly that this is not a mechanism to cover budget shortfall. And a responsible way to handle your annual O&M costs and your salaries and your equipment costs is to set an appropriate, sewer use fee. But this separate charge is the buy-in cost into the collection system for people who choose to connect now instead of, to catch up to what other people have already paid into the system, so it's fair.
I understand what you're saying, and I'm not saying that there should be no connection fee. I'm not, you know that, I didn't say that.
Right.
I said that I don't think it's fair that 12 or 15 people should pay an extra $1,000 or $500, whatever number you decide to make it, for tying in, because those are not passed on to the new customer. They're borne by the builder. Now, the user fee is passed on to the customer, and I think that's my argument, that it should be borne by them because they're using it, for the next 10, 15, 20, 50 years. And I'm just suggesting that if you do need the additional money, and I'm not familiar with your budget, as you all are, that is the appropriate way to raise the additional revenue. I am not saying that the connection fee should not be paid at all. I just don't think it should be borne on the backs of 12 or 15 people. You may disagree with me. Maybe you don't like these 12 or 15 people. I don't know. But I don't think it's fair. And that's my argument. And I know you guys are good. And you said the WPCA may establish fair and reasonable charges. So I'm questioning the fairness. That's all. guys have costs, I get it. I don't think that if you go to the go, I would suggest that you increase the rates among all the users, because they're the ones that are benefiting from it. That's all.
This actually isn't a unique problem to just Shelton. It's a statewide cost of doing business in the community goes up, and it's agonizing that it's already so darn expensive in Connecticut to run a business, no matter what type of business it is. In Stratford, just in June, the June 22nd WPCA meeting, they were actually talking about the same thing. In Stratford, the 9 municipalities that kind of surround Stratford, they've looked at the sewer connection charges, and it ranged from $700 to $8,500 for a typical residential unit, and the average is $3,800 per typical residential lot. This is what Stratford came up with. It was just kind of coincidental that they were doing the same time we are, and then they currently charge $3,500 per unit. And what are we, the commission? What was the rate that you're proposing as part of this public hearing?
The max was,
Between $500 and $1,000, but I think 500 is probably where we might be going.
So that would be
But that's up to
2,600.
me.
correct,
You're still
far lower than any other municipality.
still about $1,000 less than the what the average is for the surrounding communities. And I know you're representing Shelton buildings.
Just Shelton.
Just Shelton. So there's
These
still.
guys are all residents of Shelton, well, I think they all are residents, and they all do work here, and they've been building here. I just threw out the names, they've been building for 20 years.
So Shelton's still cost competitive with the greater market for the region, based for this particular fee. But I know there's other costs, and controlling costs is important for the community. I agree. I understand what you're saying.
Well, I don't know if there's any other questions. That's our feeling among the builders, and they asked me to present it to you all. And, I hope I made myself clear. I wasn't trying to mislead anyone.
No, you've been very good, Steve. Thank you.
Okay, so there's, I can report back, there'll be no rate increase.
You're not pounding the table. That's the good news.
No, I'm not happy.
Or we don't have 1,000 people here banging down the doors, so, like,
Well, unfortunately, you never do, and I know your commission, that's why I said, I know you guys can, I hate to say the word, the dirty work, but, you know, without the WPCA, you can't have a development. And we know that. So no one's upset with the WPCA, don't get me wrong. We know what you guys do, and, we know it's not easy. But, I don't know, I can go upstairs and talk to the mayor and be so helpful to you guys, but, I may have to bang the table on that.
no comment. I appreciate your thoughtfulness, seriously.
Yeah, no, I just hope you take my comments. You guys are all good guys, but, that's what they wanted me to decide. Anything else?
Yeah, Attorney Bellis, could you leave us a card, business card, please?
Yes.
May I approach?
That's all I have.
Thank you, Steve.
I don't know if the microphones are picking up static from your phones. No, if they're close to the mics. Yo. would say the cell burning.
That's good, that's good.
Somewhere in your feet though.
Karen, please note there's nobody else here yet.
Yeah, very good.
Bellis last month? Where was Steve Bellis last month?
I don't know. Good question. It made me cry. It made me cry. Yeah, I still feel over 1,000, I don't know.
Let's do 500, let's just get over, let's get something. If we go to 1,000, it'll be fucking hell.
Yeah. Somebody else gonna speak? Somebody else gonna speak?
No, we said an hour, we make it an hour. Because all we need to do is walk out. And then Mark's gonna catch us again on something else.
Yeah.
It says an hour, so exactly an hour. We already snagged this for last month, already put it in. You know?
Yeah.
I like Ralphie. I like Steve, good guy, you can talk to Steve. I don't have a problem talking.
Well, they got it for you guys, you know?
Not at work.
You guys think we're gonna be here all night and eat coffee?
I drink coffee all day long. It stops bothering me at this point.
That's it.
1 in the morning, and then 3, 4 o'clock is when I hit that like afternoon crash a little bit. Another one, and then I'm good.
When you were saying 3, 4, 5, I'm thinking, you had me until you said in the afternoon, I'm like, oh, yeah, it's 3, 4, 5 too.
Oh, no.
The coffee
3,
day.
4, or 5 o'clock-ish.
I'm trying to come back.
I didn't have my 3 o'clock at work, so I don't know.
Oh, hell. I miss coffee.
Well, we're all thinking, can I have you gentlemen change my phone number to a different number? This is my wife's number.
Bill, the last sheet on that thing has everybody's number.
Right.
Make your notes on that and put an asterisk. No, let's say you have 2 emails, one's work and one's your personal. We wanna make sure that if we send it to your personal, we wanna be discreet and keep only,
Yeah.
whatever's protected, let's say your personal life,
Right.
keep it protected. So, just put down what you'd like on that last sheet of paper, write notes, and we'll fix it.
Okay.
I gave these guys my cell phone number, and, literally, just delivered my second child, and they're calling me from the WPCA meeting. Hey, Matt, it's Larry, Matt.
We wanted to speak to the kid, really.
Get his opinion.
It was very nice.
This coffee ain't bad.
Does he favor the, fee increase?
We're getting a new sound system in a month. All this wireless stuff will be gone. So, sorry about, I had the IT guy trying to figure out why it sporadically does that. He didn't come up with an answer. But
Blame it on somebody.
Water pollution control plan.
Ed, we're still in the public hearing. Till 4:30. And we're gonna start the regular meeting right after. Where'd Garrett go?
Yeah, absolutely. Stop.
I'll do another 15 minutes. Karen, it's 4:17, there's still nobody else here?
Very good. You're gonna go until 4:30?
Exactly 4:30. Then we're gonna go right into our regular meeting.
You're going to adjourn this public hearing though first, yes? And
Yes, ma'am.
you're not voting on the benefit connection charges?
At the regular meeting. This is just a public hearing.
Very good.
Good one.
Would you hurt yourself in the golf course down in Florida?
I'm meddling. It's a sympathy vote. Leave us for a few months and fall down.
Go to Florida and play golf. Not for a few months, no, sorry.
You told me you were retiring.
You're not the bad dude. Maybe this will do it.
So you two know, this is live stream, it's, watch what you say. Yeah.
This thing hurts. I hate these things. Don't do this for nothing.
Jim, can you just move your, cell phone away?
Ernie, shut his off. Maybe he needs to use that one.
Try each one, just to see whose is the culprit.
You turned me onto that. You're the responsible party. Is that what you just threw in? Yeah. I was trying to quit, and I went to the golf course, and I saw you, it's like, oh, nice and discreet. My wife doesn't, I think she knows now. I left my pocket one time. She washed the pants, and she just left it in the washer.
I carry them back from Milford, I got a couple over in there, so my wife can call.
Yeah, so you get it. It's like
Well, yeah, I can't call like that.
time to get rid of it.
Same brand, huh?
Yeah, the one you turned me on to. I tried the other ones. One of the other ones.
Well, I don't think it'd be
Real
that
hard.
They were words. Well, these are, mellow is good.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, at least you ain't smoking.
Hmm?
At least you're not smoking.
Yeah. That's true. I look at it that way, I guess. Last call for the public hearing on the benefit connection charge. I think Fusco pretty much got out of control. I think they do a little bit, but not as much as they used to. Do, maintenance, building maintenance. Right, right. Get a crew for that, but, yeah, you're right, not much building. Yeah. They get them made, they don't bite anyway. Yeah. The only one alive was Lynn, and, Lynn took over. Yeah. I think her brother Mark is the one who got in the car accident, right? Yeah. I don't think there were any other family members after Mark, just Lynn. I don't think so either. Cousins, but that's... They're a good company. They're good, pretty good. Good, they good. Your friend, guy that I grew up with, known for a long time, used to work for him. He got laid off. Or left, or they let him, I don't know, something happened. He was a big shot. He was a project exec. Maybe a year ago they let him go. I never really heard, I haven't heard from him. I don't know why they let him go.
Yeah.
Last call for the public hearing. Benefit connection charges. Going once? Going twice? Ed, please call it.
I'll make a motion, we close the public hearing, continue on with our regular business.
Motion by Ed, second by Bill. All in favor to close the public hearing?
Aye.
Vote in order. Karen, we're gonna move right into the next one. Stand for Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What are you doing over there, Ed?
Sure nobody's getting too tired.
Item number 2, public participation. The regular meeting at 4:30, November 10th. Item number 3, approval of the meeting for the special meeting dated October 14th, 2020.
Make a motion, we approve.
Motion by Ed for the special meeting. Second by Bill. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Anybody opposed? For future reference, you guys should be abstaining if you're not at a meeting. For
Oh,
sure.
the previous minute?
Yeah,
Okay.
like something like this here.
Gotcha, okay.
4A, Superintendent's Report. Okay, Ed, now you're up. Eugene.
Our average daily flow is 2 million gallons per day. Our peak flow is 2.6 million gallons per day.
Hey, Ed, can I stop you for 1 second? I apologize. Can you guys introduce yourselves? Two new board members? I was supposed to do that at the beginning. I totally forgot about it. Eugene, go ahead. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hello, everyone. My name is Eugene Amini. 25. I was born and raised here in Shelton, Connecticut. Obviously, recently just joined the WPCA board. I think I was able to meet everyone except you so far. Steve. Oh, there you go. Looking forward to serving the board and looking forward to continuing this.
Bill.
William Gannon, I moved in the week of the Gloria hurricane, and been, Shelton ever since, and looking forward to seeing what's going on.
Okay.
Very good.
All right, Ed, sorry to interrupt, I meant to, you wanna go around and introduce ourselves? Bill?
Bill Miko, a member, I've been a resident of Shelton since 2004, and I just joined the board, I think it was 5 months ago already.
Seems less than that. Go ahead, Matt.
I'm, Matt Germain, I'm the consultant engineer from Fuss and O'Neill. I've been helping the commission with, a lot of the front work over the past, about 10 years.
John Puskar, I've been a Shelton resident since 2015, and joined the board.
Don Ramia, I've been on the board about 5 years, I lived there 74 years.
Who? Mike DeAngelis, a resident of Shelton for the past 32, 33 years, and the board chairman for probably 25 years, somewhere in there.
Ed Hellauer, been on the board so many years, I can't remember when I started. But anyways, it's been interesting, and it's a good commission to work on. Thank you.
Ernie?
Ernie Hutchinson, City of Shelton, WPCA Administrator, and resident of Shelton. That's it.
Mr. Chukta?
Stephen Chukta Jr., my name. I've been on the board about 4.5 years, I believe. And, I'm a lifelong resident of Shelton.
All right, any questions, Bill? Eugene? Were there anybody?
Good, thank you.
All right, Ed, go ahead.
Okay, the report for October 2020. Our energy is only 2 million gallons per day, we got a peak flow of 2.6 million gallons per day. To compliance with our permit limits. Therefore, reported nitrogen average 39 pounds per day. Our limit is 106 pounds per day, so one day which was late. Trucked our 12 dry tons of sludge from Nautica. Our 4 SCRs are online. We had, no lost time for accidents, so we're up to, 23 months of accident-free work. Our safety training with chemical safety, our chemical consumables were as normal. Disinfection this month, so no sodium hypochlorite was used. No noise complaints, that's a 98.3 months. No state issue notice complaints at the pump station, that's 3%. That's a 28 complaint-free month. Our grease removal for October was 80 pounds at the upper aid station, 120 for the lower aid. 80 at the River Road, 100 at Lattice Place, 80 for Meadowlark, total of 460 pounds of grease removed from the stations, 50 pounds better than the same period last year. Our preventive maintenance was on normal schedule. Corrective maintenance for the month was, we replaced our contacts with mechanical arson, removed main pump number 1 for rebuild, repaired crack fittings on the column of the pump system, upgraded the level sensing system at Lattice station. Our work schedule for the remainder of the year is all SCRs that are online currently. Future work is to replace the remote terminal unit, the motor control center, and install main pump number, motor number 1, developers there. Keep on top of all equipment and controls with daily tests. And repair as needed. Our overtime management was as normal. One good thing is our nitrogen removals with natural innovation has been very good.
So Ed, you've got corrective maintenance here. I know we're gonna talk about it at some point, and probably tonight. Do you have anything in the future that you need to that need to start thinking about with, future upgrades. I don't know if you've been with Matt, you've been talking to Matt for, because Matt's gonna develop, if you remember, we had the, and we basically went through it, we had the, right. Mhm. I'm saying that if you remember that, Matt, we developed this needs list. Really, not too important, but very important. We spread it out over, what was it, 3 years, Matt?
Well, we just track it, and then it's just, as you're able to get the funding, you still funding.
Right, so are you making sure you're working with Matt to talk to?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I talk to the guys at the plant every month. We actually, when we get into that later in the agenda, there's actually, there's one item that's pretty, high priority, so we'll get to that later.
Okay. Anything you want to talk about? Greece not here?
No, it's not significant,
Right.
information that he needed to be here.
So Bill and Eugene, and I don't know if you did it yet either, John, I highly recommend that you go down and you make a trip with Ernie and Ed and Garrett down to the plant. I know it sounds pretty easy. You flush your toilet, you take a shower every morning, but it's really cool. It's really interesting. I mean, you get there and you realize what this plant really does and what we've been doing over the years.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think a lot of people
Take for granted.
Now, you heard Steve Bellis. I mean, he doesn't. A guy like him doesn't. He understands the importance of the plant and the importance of the board. So I recommend you guys get a chance. You don't have to do it, immediately, but just start to understand, because there's going to be some terms in here. There's going to be quite a few terms in here. You're going to have no clue what we're talking about. Unless you get down there and take a quick tour.
Absolutely.
15-minute, half hour, an hour, max an hour. Start with the I didn't know what an SBR was until we did the upgrade to the plant 12 or 15 years ago. So there's really interesting, So I recommend you guys try to get down there.
It's not smelly anymore either.
And that's the other key thing is all treatment plants at some point were, odor issues. And you drive across the Commodore Hall Bridge and it's like, wow. But that kind of stuff is, over the years, we spent money on it, worked on it, and you heard Ed say it, he has it in our report, we haven't had any more odor complaints. We used to get them quite a lot. If you get a chance.
Of the 5, locations mentioned here, Upper Route A, Lower Route A, River Road, are those like sub-plants or
They're pump stations.
Pump stations, okay.
And we get grease.
Gotcha, okay.
And Ed will tell you, 95% of our grease, 98% of our grease comes from residential.
Okay.
And it's hard to stop.
Absolutely.
So we collect a lot of grease, a lot of Italians in town cooking, and people don't think they don't
Close it properly.
They put it down the sink and it's a done deal, We tried a couple of things, but it's one of those things that you got to stay on top of it. It's hard. So they collect the grease at the plant once a week. You go down at the pump station once a week, Ed? Daily, okay. They collect grease daily. So grease is our big issue, besides I&I. And again, another term that, it's like, what's I&I? So that's why I say, if you get a chance, and look, John called me. John and I had an hour discussion, really good discussion. And I'm like, wow, I'm glad somebody's, reaching out to find out what this is about. And him and I got to meet again at some point. And if not, maybe we all meet again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I highly recommend it.
I love that.
Yeah, over the next month, maybe through Ernie, wanted to organize a plant visit. I'm really long-winded, so we could actually cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to do that.
Maybe an hour and a half, no. Without, anytime you would like a tour. I'll meet you down there with the guys at the plant and,
Okay,
find a nice day.
absolutely.
Any other questions for Ed? Ed, do you have any other comments? And that's the other thing I tell people. Our sewer use rate for 209, what are we, 203? We are one of the lowest in the state. You can go up to $800, $1,000 for sewer use rate. That wasn't the public hearing, this is something different. The sewer use rate down in Greenwich is $890. Stratford is almost 500, and we're at 203 or 205, so we are one of the lowest in the state. And you gotta think of it, and I tell people this all the time, you flush your toilet and you take a shower 365 days a year for that rate, that's pretty low.
Beautiful, yeah.
Like, it was 203, a couple of years ago it was 198.
That's right. A small increase, something, incremental, but it's a lot to learn, and it's really, I love it. There's a lot to learn, but it's a great thing to do, to go down there and understand it. 'Cause people drive by and it's like, what's that?
Yeah.
Nothing else for Ed? Ed, you're all set? 4B, budget worksheet. All right, so I'm gonna, since Steve Morse is no longer with us, he was helping us he was our budget man, and he had all these, so I'm kinda reaching out. And Bill, don't feel bad if you don't wanna do it, it's okay. I'm reaching out, I'd like to have somebody kinda help understand this. I understand it, but when Steve put it on Excel, it made a lot more sense. And he actually did graphs on it, and it was a lot easier to read and understand. Here, it's like, first of all, we're behind everyone, so we're behind by 2 months for the most part. By the time they put everything in and they report it to us, it's like 2 months behind, okay? That's how it's working here, but Steve did a good job of making sure that he was involved directly with the finance department, so he can come to the meetings and at least give us an intelligent discussion on our budget and where we're over. Now, we've never really, from what I can ever remember, ever gone over. We have switched money out of one account because we weren't spending it and put it into other accounts, which is fine, as long as the bottom line of the $2,836,000 doesn't change. It doesn't matter where we move our money. For the most part, it's kind of, that's set for the year. Now, and at some point, we will be getting together to start our budget next year in March, typically February, March. We'll start getting together. Ernie and I have been talking about how he's got all of his stuff changed, the budget now onto an Excel worksheet, so it's a lot easier to understand. Obviously, you understand Excel, so it's gonna be built probably. So we're gonna have our budget work session again. We usually have them in February, March. There's not much to talk on this right now. There's not a lot that's happened. We're not grossly over budget on anything, and if we are, then we have to move money around. So unless anybody has any comments, John, you might be a good guy, John, to learn to do this, to be our old Steve Morse, the two young guys that must know Excel.
Yeah, looks like a construction job cost report.
What's that?
Looks like a construction job cost report.
Yeah, exactly.
I look at these two also.
Except we don't have a program for it. Excel, you know what?
Hey, Excel's better
For this,
oftentimes.
for this, Excel is perfect for this. It works great. And Pete, you haven't met Pete. Pete, takes care of our FOG. He's our grease police, and he knows Excel pretty well, so.
Awesome.
Don't put your head down over there, John.
I don't appreciate the stereotypes that the young people.
No, I'm not, well, hey, I'm not stereotyping, I'm thinking you guys are the best, the newer guys.
Appreciate the compliment.
I'm taking it that way. Not stereotyping, John. 5A, Fuss O'Neill status report.
Let me pass this out and then I'll talk.
saving paper today, Matt?
I printed it from home, yeah.
And also, we had the report for Steve, Attorney Bellis.
I wanted to make sure we kept this separate from, the public hearing. We're kind of at an inflection point with the WPCA right now. We've just completed a pretty frugal treatment plant kind of upgrade / repair. Not necessarily for growth, it was for, fixing deficiencies that the plant's been running at for the past 10 years since the previous design of someone else. So we went in there and we fixed it so the plant actually, treats the wastewater the way it's supposed to without the guys pulling their hair out. I mean, if you look at Ed, he's,
All the hair's gone.
all of his hair's gone. But, so they're doing really great job with the plant upgrade. It works very well. It's still a little temperamental with the change in air temperature, which is an amazing thing because before it just never worked. Now they could see these subtle differences. Anyway, but what we've been doing is keeping track pretty much since I've started here of projects that we have that there are needs for and projects that have been completed, and then try to budget it out. Not really this mysterious process, but just trying to say, well, this is really the next most important thing on the list. It's going to cost so much money. Let's figure out how we can work it into just the commission's annual budget. And we have not been going to the city for capital improvement funds. Generally, the commission's been pretty opposed to taking out low-interest loans for this stuff because it sounds good to get a big chunk of money, but then you have to raise your sewer rate to pay back that loan over many years of paying back that interest cost. So if you look on it's hard to say what's the back. So this is the back, the one with a lot more writing on it. A really fine list. So this is a list of projects that we have completed over the last, since 2011. So if you go through and look at this list, none of this work is for growth of the collection system or increasing the capacity at the sewage plant. Growth of the collection system would be doing sewer extensions. Growth at the plant would be adding extra treatment tanks. We're not doing any of that. We're fixing these problems that have been recurring, have been headaches, and I'm not going to go through this whole list. There's quite a comprehensive list, and it's hard to appreciate the amount of work that goes into solving any one of these problems, let alone this, going through all of them.
Now, Matt, let me add to that, though. When we upgraded the plant 15 or so years ago, it was a big number, $38 million, and then we upgraded the pump stations for, I believe, another $6 or $7 million. Well, we knew that we weren't upgrading the plant to its maximum, not capacity as far as inflow, 4 million gallons, but as far as equipment and being efficient. If you remember, Ed, that Alan wanted to drag a line across the tank for grease, so we get a lot of grease up on the top of the tank. Well, we saved, and Ed made the point, very good point. We saved close to $1 million by not doing it. And Ed, and I remember it because Ed's like one of the only ones left that he opposed it for a good reason. But we saved $1 million, so we knew. So some of this stuff here, we knew we were going to have to be doing because we had to cut back on the budget. We were only, given so much, and it did go to referendum, which I was surprised that some people paid attention to it. So things like that with the grease removal and the fine bubblers, Ed wanted to spend the money. Well, the rest of the board members didn't, so that's what some of this stuff is. Some of this stuff is upgrades that we pretty much knew that we were gonna have to do eventually, because we were trying to be budget conscious, like the city of Shelton always is. But you still have a plant that worked, and those were the days when we were getting nitrogen credit money back, so we can pay for those kind of things. We're not getting as much nitrogen credit money back from the state anymore. They've changed the formula. We, one year, if I remember, $225,000 from the state for nitrogen credits. Now it's down to, what was our last one, 25,000?
Yeah, next year, you should get a bigger check.
Right, so,
And some of that, some of the cost cutting that was done with that upgrade was actually essential equipment, or it's really essential needs that just weren't implemented. So then you can't really get that frustrated when they finish the upgrade and hand over the keys and it doesn't work right. Well, you only bought half a car, how fast do you think it's gonna go? So that amount of money that we cut, even though it's 10 years later, it ended up turning out to be about the same amount of money to go in there and fix it the way it should run, but with just more modern equipment over the last 10 years. So we're at a decent point now. Going over what's left to what's really needed at the plant, this is a funny thing to talk about. We're coming out of a drought for the past, 6 to 9 months. Prior to the drought, whenever there's this high-intensity rainstorm, which will be equivalent to more than 2 inches of rain in an hour, somewhere there was this surge of stormwater flow that would enter the collection system, and by the time it got to the plant influent pumps were just flatline, running full max, just barely keeping up with this flow. And as soon as this high-intensity storm, think of like a really heavy thunderstorm, as soon as it moved away, the flows would start coming down again, like almost instantly. So we've been trying to investigate where that is coming into the collection system, because it causes problems at the plant. But you can't look for it if you don't have any heavy rainfall. We've had 3 or 4 tropical storms, and this past year, all the storms have been going west of Connecticut, so it doesn't really help Shelton that much. And that's why we have it's the first item on the front of the page, which seems to have fewer line items on it. I'm gonna skip the second one for a second. Well, no, well, let's just go through it. So, a lot of the times, the collection system in Shelton, some of the original collection system in the downtown area dates from the late 1800s. And you go from everything from just clay pipe board to ductile iron, you have asbestos cement pipe, all the way up through PVC pipe. And the really old stuff, originally the concept was with a sewer, you collect all the wastewater so it's not running down the street. You collect it into a pipe and you send it out to the river. And it worked out great because it's the river that's on the hill. They figured out that that's probably not good for the people who enjoy the river. So that's why in the 50s and the 60s, they made all the communities put in treatment plants. It's funny because that's not really that long ago in the grand scheme of life. So now we have the treatment plant down there, but originally the concept was it doesn't matter if you're getting water from roof leaders or catch basins, or if the pipe joints leak and groundwater is getting in. It doesn't matter, it's going out to the river. But now with the treatment plant, you have to actually treat the dirty water and the clean water together. So with this older part of the collection system, what needs to happen is to go in there and take care of 100-year-old pipe and make it watertight. Not only just because it's so old, but you also want to prevent, say, like tree roots from getting in and clogging it up and get overflows on city streets, things like that, or a pipe collapse, and then Ernie gets a call in the middle of the night and he has to go out there and fix it at great expense.
So Matt, let's go quickly, and, you know, we don't need to spend a lot of time on, but let's go quickly and with Ed's input, what you guys want to try to accomplish on our priority list over the next, 3 to 6 months.
Sure.
So let's go to the top one, the ongoing, the critical. Lining, that we do that every year, that's critical,
Well, so that is so what I was getting to, Mike, is that is critical. In the past, you've spent $500,000 a year doing the lining. That came from your bond referendum funding, which is now depleted. So that was a one-time vote by the citizens to allocate so much money as a,
So that now is gonna come out of our capital improvement.
it's going to have to.
It's gonna have to.
But that money's
Okay.
not budgeted yet.
No, that's correct. So let's go to the next one,
The next one is,
signal wiring.
at the treatment plant, we did quite a bit of work, but what we uncovered when we were down there and kind of caused us to back off, because we didn't have the money at the time, was all the wiring between the different buildings and out to these raised tanks, the insulation is cracking and water is getting into it. And it's only a matter of time before some of these signal wires start shorting out. The signal wires collect the data, which basically tells you, it tells the computer how to run the plant, how to treat the wastewater. So if you lose a loss of signal, you just lost an entire tank, which could be catastrophic. So that's actually a critical thing to go through and fix that.
Okay, let's move to the next one. You get a minute on each one, Matt.
All right.
I'll give you 2 maybe if you're lucky.
That was important. Okay, the
Yep,
pump station
pump station
evaluations,
evaluation.
pump stations are starting to age. They were last upgraded, over 10 years ago. Some of the pump stations, especially on Bridgeport Ave, they're gonna see some significant growth with there's been quite a bit of, development in Shelton, especially along Bridgeport Ave over the last 10 years. And the pump station, especially those two, they're starting to approach their upper limit of capacity. So, but even the smaller ones, it might be time, are the generators still good? Is it easy to get parts? How are the pumps working? Is there corrosion? That brings us to the next one. The pump stations go into a pressurized pipe, the force main. And, your systems don't have odor control on it, which prevents the buildup of, hydrogen sulfide gas, which smells like rotten eggs. The problem with that in a force main is that's an acidic, that's acidic, and if it's not plastic pipe, that acid will slowly eat away at your pipe. And it's kind of, it's gone, just kind of ignored. Where do you have corrosion in your force main or the discharge point of each force main? There's a couple pipes that are actually the inner bituminous, which is supposed to prevent that acid from eating the pipe away, is flaking off and washing down to the plant.
Okay, so let's move on to the next one. We're gonna skip over sports and drive.
Yeah, we can talk about that later.
We can talk about that later. Administrative process streamlining, this is nothing that's critical.
It's not critical, just going through these items quick.
So the next one is system-wide I&I. That's one that we need to do, this is an ongoing, we need to do this.
Right, if you're gonna line your pipes to stop the leaks, you have to know where the leaks are to fix them. So, you have, 150, 160 miles of sewer pipe, now you gotta go back and find where they're leaking, so then you can fix them. Going down to these other ones, there's different types of clean water getting into your system. You have infiltration, which is basically after it rains, the groundwater comes up, and the water finds all the little leaks, enters the system, and then, creates a problem. Inflow would be like people connecting up, their sump pumps in their basement, or, roof leaders or catch basins. And as it's raining, the water goes right into the system, goes right to the plant. It looks different, but it's a big volume of flow. And then, the rehabilitation, after you find these different types of problems, there's a whole host of different ways to fix this stuff. And again, that should be an annual O&M thing, like you give a car an oil change. You're supposed to go through your collection system and find things and fix it. These other two things at the plant are very minor, which is why they're really low. They're nice to do, but, so we're just tracking it. It's, to fix the water leak in the potable water pipe to the chlorine, building, that's really not a big issue. The other one is the chlorine contact tank has been in service for decades. It's getting to the point where it'd be good to put a sealant or a coating on that, epoxy coating on that concrete, so that concrete can project. Just talked to the guys, there are two other things that kind of came up. There's the sludge system, the plant's working so well, it's generating more sludge now. So at some point, we should look at how much sludge they can process in a week versus how much they receive, and make sure that that's still compatible or functional. And then, there might be an opportunity with all this grease that comes in at the pump station to figure out an easier way to manage that grease. So those are kind of like the needs that the WPCA has that we've been tracking.
I just have one question on that. For the priority, so some of these, they say medium high, and then it kind of switches to one time versus annual and low.
Yeah.
So those all the one time and annual, what's the priority?
Well, the tracking of that would be to kind of just, take little bites at it as we go along. It's something you want to address a lot sooner than, say, low priority thing, but, you know, if there's no expectation that, let's say you have a $100,000 budget, and $75,000 goes towards, the pump station evaluation. I'm just making this up. So then you have a little bit of money left in the year, and that's where you would say, oh, you know, let's work on this, the sewer flow allocation for connection. Maybe we should look at that while we have time and budget for it. Last year, we were very close to meeting, the amount of money coming in versus what the expenses were, so we really didn't get to work on that one-time stuff. This year, it's slightly better, but, moving forward, some of these bigger items do cost more.
Any questions for Matt? One thing a little bit, did you have anything?
No.
Oh, a little bit off of this, and it's gonna involve Matt, is I wanna have a special meeting we've been talking about this for a while, to review our sewer shed areas. We have 12 sewer shed areas in town, and, I wanna have a special meeting, since it might take a couple of hours, and I don't wanna do it during our regular monthly meeting. We have 12 sewer shed areas in town, and each sewer shed area is allocated X amount of gallons for each of the 12 areas. And what happens is, Matt's keeping track of when a new project comes in. If it's got 100,000 gallons, he puts it against that area, so we can see what our flow is from that area. Downtown, of course, over the years, we're given higher priority for more flow, so we moved sewer flows out of different areas, and we put it into the downtown area. And it'd be a good idea, it'd be a good thing to have, so you guys can understand kind of how we break the town down, and we have to decide, and I don't know what anybody's availability is. I can probably, call each one of you or send an email, but I'd like to have something towards the end of the day, where we can review our sewer shed areas. Just to and then Matt is keeping track of them. I want to understand how many gallons is in each area and what's left.
And Mike, one thing that we did skip over, so all those items that we were discussing were just maintenance of your existing infrastructure. And, it's not like maintaining a house. Everything is much more expensive. It's just a whole different scale. The only growth item on this list would be the Sportsman Drive sewer extension, which has just been kind of dangling out here for a couple of years now. The neighbors in that community came together pretty much unanimously, which frankly never happens in all the years I've been doing this, to say we would like sewers in our neighborhood because our septic systems are giving us a lot of headaches, it's gonna be expensive to fix them, and the sewer's nearby. We just, as a neighborhood, we wanna connect to your sewer system. So that's a collection system expansion or growth. And that is not cheap. That kind of a cost would have to come from some sort of funding mechanism, and that's something we have to work out. But before we did that, we had to address the critical items. But that's kind of where we draw the line of what's a maintenance item and what's a growth item.
Okay. Anything else for Matt? Any other questions on this? Is everybody okay with a special meeting in the next 3 or 4 weeks to discuss our sewer shed areas?
Yes.
Yep. I'll contact everybody, or you'll send out an email. We'll pick a day. Is there any good day or bad day for anybody? And time, what is your time again?
4:30 or later,
4:30
or 9:30.
So even if we met at 4:30 to 6, City Hall's still closing at 6, right? Gives us an hour and a half, 4:30 to 6 on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. So I'll send out an email, we can figure that one out. Any other questions that was for Matt? Matt, you have any other comments? 5B, connection fee for the public hearing that we just had. I'm gonna start by commenting on Steve Bellis, and I respect Steve a lot. He's known Steve for many years, like you, a lot of you guys have. I hear them, but when Steve sees, I hear the group of 15, but when Steve sees the list, as Matt just pointed out, one of these is considered growth. We never look for money for growth. We look for money to keep the plant up and running, because DEP has a lot of say in what we do. And if you were to take this list and you were to look at the growth, somebody's got to have to pay for the other 99% of the items on this list. And I think we do it fair and equitable. Now, did we wait 14 years too late? Yes, I guess we probably did. But the means cost tells us that we should have done it, and it's an annualized of 2.5%. Now, I'm going to tell everybody this, and quite a few people asked me, well, when we talked about it, what was my feeling? $500,000. And I told people, I said, and I didn't want to answer it. I only answered one person. I said, look, if push comes to shove, it's $500 from me. I told people I didn't want to influence their vote, so we voted for the 1,000. It turned out that we had the public hearing that was incorrect, so we have to have a new public hearing. I believe we need something. For Steve to ask us to vote on nothing, I'm not sure I see how that can happen. Knowing what we have in here for priority and DEP telling us, what we're mandated to do. Again, when we did the plant upgrade, you said 10 years. I thought it was closer to 15. We knew that I think it was closer to 15. We knew that we had to spend money in the future, meaning now, to get some of this stuff changed out. Looking back at it, the scum rakes, Ed was right, but we didn't have the money, and we didn't spend it. So we were already, and I actually believe that waiting that amount of time gave us a better end result with the grease on the top of the tanks, with the fine air bubblers, and I think, Ed, you would probably say that's true. So had we done it 15 years ago, we would have had just these rakes, and that would have moved the scum to this little tube, and it would have taken it away. Well, we have a better solution. It cost us a lot of money, but it's a better solution that we waited 15 years. So, but 15 years ago, who would have known that there was going to be a better solution? So I think we benefited by waiting to the better solution. So I believe we need something to make, I understand Steve and I understand the group, but for helping us do what's considered cap expense, this is what we need the money for.
So just to step back, why do you guys charge a benefit connection charge? Why can't someone just connect and then just start paying an annual fee?
Because somebody's got to pay for because all these other people over the years have paid for this plant. So we have no CapEx money. We just let them connect. Where are we going to get our CapEx money from?
So you're saying like to be a part of the system, they should have to buy into it.
There's a benefit. That's why we called it the benefit connection charge, because you have a benefit that's a $50 million asset sitting down there right now. Now, when we did our number back in 14 years ago, it was a $40 million asset. So we redid the calculation, and it turns out that it's a $50 million asset over the last 14 or 15 years. Again, it's one of those things that you just got to really, understand what we have to, of course, for this kind of board, you can't just go throw numbers out there. I mean, we'd all be irresponsible, including me, if we just said, just give me $1,000, or, you know, it's not that easy. You have to be able to back it up with real math and real numbers and what the industry is telling us that it's worth.
Can I give a copy of the numbers, or just hand it out to everybody? This was the description of how we calculate this
Yeah,
benefit
absolutely.
connection charge.
I think Bill actually Bill understood. Bill, I was really happy. You really picked that up really quickly to understand that whole process. And here's how we went through the process. We didn't just grab numbers and increase the value of this plant by $10 million. The industry index, and as you know, Eugene, means is what they're using. And that's how we arrived at a $50 million asset. And who's going to pay for that $50 million asset? Help us pay for the $50 million asset. So when I say the value of it, cost at year complete, that's the 40 million, 2007 when we did this. And then you talk about the efficiency improvements. So actually now, when I say 50, it was 56. I'm looking at the top line from 40 to 56 million. And then when you add in the improvements and sludge aeration and blowers and SBR work, odor mitigation, it's a $60 million asset now, all total, over a 14-year period. So the increase, and look, I'm going to leave it up to everybody to make that, us all collectively to make that decision, what we feel what the value is. If anybody believes there's no value to it, then I want to hear it. If anybody believes it's something in between $0 and $1,000, we want to hear that too. So, not going to turn anybody down. I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you how to vote it, and that's why when people ask me what my vote was, I said I'm not going to tell you because I want to influence you. I want you guys to make the decision. I know what I would vote for, and but is there any question on? You want to go through this, Matt? You want to discuss it in 2 minutes?
So within a 2-minute time limit, we took the total sewer system value in today's dollars, and then we divided up based on how many single-family households you can connect to it. That's the equivalent dwelling unit. And we get a little over 19,000. That's line 4. So then we say if it costs $60 million and you can hook up a little over 19,000 households, then that would be an equivalent of $3,200 per household unit. So if somebody wants to come in with another household, their buy-in fee would be that $3,200. This is updated for today's dollars. So this is the same calculation they used to come up with this number 14 years ago, back when it was only $2,100. We just haven't updated it since 2007. So the question is, you say take that $2,100 that it used to be, what do you increase it to? Is it unpalatable to just do one big hit all at once for this year, or do you split it up, or do a percentage of it? The other question is that, is it fair that these people have this is only for new connections, is it fair for new connections to pay a rate that's 14 years old? Their building supplies have gone up, shouldn't the sewer fees change or not? Just by comparison, Stratford's charging right now, they're charging $3,500 per EDU.
Matter of fact, it's line item number 6 in the back page. There's something here.
There's a pretty big variation across communities. If say, Shelton wanted to stop future development, then you peg that number up around $8,500, and then everybody's gonna go somewhere else. And that's not what we want to do.
This was not meant to do that. This was not meant to stop
It's
development.
not meant to do that. But it is a defensible process, but at the end of the day, it's a policy decision, what you want to charge for new connections.
So a sewer user rate on this back page, just for you guys, is different from the benefit connection charge, so you understand that. Because Matt put that on here too. So in a lot of ways, we are still, whether you look at the benefit connection charge or you look at the sewer user rate, we're relatively inexpensive. I know there's some people that don't think that this is a good idea, but some people that think it is a good idea. I don't think we're trying to stop growth.
The reason why your fees are so low and where you are today is because you basically, you had a brand new car, and instead of maintaining it you put a little bit of money into it each year, you just kind of started driving it into the ground. And now you're at a point where you can keep going on that path and not put the money you collect back just to maintain it, not to make it better. If you choose not to do that, then when things do go wrong, they just are much more expensive to handle on an emergency basis. Much more expensive.
So does anybody want to, if you want, we can go around the table and get everybody's input again. I know everybody pretty much had their input. Don, you want to start? You want to pass? I tell everybody your feel, we think you still stand. I'd like to hear it. If you don't want to, that's fine.
I made my statement, last month at the meeting based on information from our consultant. And, I've been involved in, budget for 40 years at the school system and things, and this was totally new to me, so I referred to our consultant because I'm not sure what I was doing. For the last 4 years, this never came up, so I just referred to our consultant. And I thought that by listening to what he said, not having gone up for 13 or 14 years, it was a good thing to go up. And I see the development going up in Shelton. I was here long before most of you, except Eddie. And to see the development is fantastic. It's just, overwhelming to see what's going on. And I just don't, and I'm not a builder, and I'm not a developer, but I don't see how we can maintain, once these people develop their, property, okay, they're done, they're gone. And obviously, we make them do a good job because of planning and zoning and all of that. But that's done. We have to maintain that plant. And when they come in with 25 apartments or 50 apartments or 89 apartments or 1,000 apartments like Shelter Rock or what Shelter Ridge is going to be, that's left to us. And we haven't had an increase in 13 years, and we're going to get 400 or 500 new apartments at least in the next couple of years. So I just thought it would be feasible to do it. And I don't believe what Steve Bella said, that it's not passed on to the consumer. I don't believe that. Maybe I'm 100% wrong, but I don't believe that. Nobody, I built 3 or 4 houses to live in myself, and nobody, doesn't get a gain when the times changes. The carpenters and plumbers, I just moved, back into my original house. The carpenters and plumbers I paid this time were a hell of a lot more expensive than they were 37 years ago. And who'd they pass it off on? Me. I had to pay for it. So, again, I don't think it's a lot of money, but I'll defer to the commission because of the pressure we've gotten to keep it low. I know a lot of developers, I know a lot of builders. I had a lot of them in school as my own students, et cetera. There's one here tonight. And it's not something I want to hurt them, and I don't think that it's unfair to go up. I don't think we have to go up to 1,000 if that's what the commission wants. I based my $1,000 increase on our consultant who knows, he's here weekly or monthly, and he knows what he's doing. And I have to look at his figures and say, wow, what is that about? He explained it all to me individually, we spent a lot of time together. So that's why I thought it was worth $1,000. I think we have to go up though, we have to, we've been, too long without increasing it to some dollar amount.
Okay.
Yeah, just to summarize kind of what I said last time, I think my sort of concern kind of fell around three buckets. One is just the timing, during the pandemic. I think, Steve made a lot of interesting points. I think one of them is sort of the cost overall, right? You look at the price of lumber, you look at the stock market, right? I think there's just a lot of uncertainty, and I think it's going to be a long ways away before we're sort of out of this. So I think that the timing of it, I think that, like, everyone sort of, I think, made the right points, and, when it's been 15 years, it's probably been 15 years too long. I think that sort of doesn't really matter, sort of a moot point at this stage. It's kind of what do we do going forward from here? And I think, my issue was kind of that one-time increase of $1,000. Yeah, it's 2.5% over 15 years, but you're talking about 50% at a one-time clip, which I just disagreed with. And I think too, to this point, I think the spreadsheet, is really important, because if you look at these projects, whether we raise it 500 or 1,000, I thought, you look at the last month, that would have ended up being somewhere between, I think another $5,000 and $10,000. $10,000 a month, even assuming that and forecasting that out, that's $100,000, $120,000 a year. Right now, the top two critical projects, are over $1 million, right? And 750 of that's annual. We're not going to get there by just raising this, so I think us as a group have to really challenge ourselves to think and forecast out, to say, how do we make some of these things happen so that we're not duct taping the doors to the Honda Civic, but we're actually, trying to make sure that this thing runs, because I agree, I mean, I'm in the infrastructure business, right? If you don't invest in networks and in your infrastructure, you pay for it down the road. That being said, I think, I used to live in Trumbull. I connected from a septic tank to a sewer and know what it's like to pay thousands of dollars in a one-time fee. And I think, you mentioned Stratford. I think Trumbull's $2,500, and I think it was like $200 or quarterly or something like that. So, I mean, I do think, we don't want to just look to see what others are doing, but I think, I would be comfortable at that $500 level, because I think, look, without a doubt, we need to make some sort of investment. The question becomes, who pays for this? And I think to Don's point and to Steve's point, I disagree with Steve in the sense that I don't look at this as just 12 builders having to absorb this cost. I look at this as, potentially thousands of residents, because at the end of the day, he talked about single-family homes. We didn't talk about the 500 apartment buildings. And
that's right.
If you think, look, I rent out condos across sort of, a couple different towns across Connecticut, and I could tell you without a doubt, apartment buildings have, increased, their rents. And, I just don't agree that if you have 500 new units coming in, that, the builder isn't just going to absorb that cost, right? The builder has all these other costs to absorb. I think that cost is going to be passed on to that person, renting out that unit. And, as a fiscal conservative and someone that I think, Shelton has had a strong record of keeping our tax lows, that's why people come here over Stratford or Trumbull and whatnot. So, like I said, I think it's really important to maintain that. And, while I think he made a lot of good points that I agree with, I think it has to go up. But I think, like I said, I'm comfortable at the 500 level. I'm not comfortable at 1,000. And like I said, I just challenge this group to sort of forecast out, to think, how can we sort of plan this so that it's not another 15 years if we have some sort of crisis, and how do we, still pay for this stuff? Because I don't believe $500 or 1,000 for that matter, is going to, pay for all that.
Okay, I'm in the rotation kind of, just real quick, this 3173 number I projected out would be what the current value would be at 2020. For you to use as a guidance to see where you were and where you should be today, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to hit that number, or that's my recommendation, is that that's the number it should be at. I'm just trying to point out, like, how you stand compared to other communities. Are you putting yourself at a disadvantage, or do you want to be cost competitive but still less than them? And then, I mean, do you wanna do in a way that doesn't hurt builders? How do you balance that? And that's not engineering.
Yep.
I basically agree with John says. I can't add to his, itemized presentation, but, my thing is that it's unfortunate nothing's been done for X number of years, and just to make it up in 1 year, I think it's just too much, and it's the timing more than anything else. This was last year, year before, different circumstances. I mean, today we just live in a world that's just unbelievable. Just too many important other issues going on. I think it's $500, I think it's just a fair amount to come up with. We revisit it again in 2, 3 years, 4 years from now, that's fine, then we can make that other, adjustment to it.
I also agree with that too. Just a lot of money to raise all at once, and maybe we should think about doing this again sooner to, offset the price, but.
Now, let me ask you two guys a question, and I want to be careful how I ask the question. Do you have enough information, being here today for the very first time?
Not really.
Okay, and we didn't talk because it was so quick. It's okay. It's the way it worked. I don't have a problem with that. But we didn't get a chance to talk. Now, my opinion is, only my opinion, because you don't really have enough of good information. I'm not gonna tell you I'm gonna ask you to step aside and vote. Be careful how we say it. But I want to finish it, and then I want to say something later in a minute about that, because there's a lot of good comments, and it's a lot to understand in one night. Now you can keep going. I don't have I'd love to hear everybody. Eugene, Bill, both you guys, but I hope you have enough information that if you're going to be asked to make a vote, that at least you understand what you're making a vote on, and not If you want to finish, you.
No, I think, you got a point there that I don't really have enough knowledge, me personally. But I was thinking of me being like someone that wants to connect. That could be me. Would I rather pay the 5 or more money? And I was just thinking along those lines. Plus, the timing.
I agree with that. The timing is not good. It is a big nut to swallow.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Eugene?
So I have a few points that are kind of influencing my decision, which I'll get into first. One is, from although young compared to everyone at the table, I've been here my whole life, and I've always seen Shellen as a place, from when I was born all the way till now, being a place of development, a place where everybody wants to come. We have a competitive edge over other towns, which is why naturally my decision goes to keeping the increase lower, while I also agree that it should be increased, simply due to the fact of a few reasons. One, the obvious fact that it hasn't been increased in 13, 14 years. Definitely needs, just the inflation cost over 13 years of just people's salaries, we still have to go there and inspect all these tie-ins, and then all the overhead costs that goes involved with a new service. All that cost naturally increases over the years, and which obviously 13 years, there's quite an increase. So I think keeping it at the 500 mark is a good increase for now, and I agree with previously mentioned doing this in shorter intervals and not waiting 13 years to do it again. Maybe it's something we look at every 2 years, along with the actual sewer use charge, together, hand in hand, whether that's every year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it may be. We evaluate that and increase to make up the whole difference. Looking at the math here of coming to the $1,073 increase, obviously the math brings you there, and that's what per se we should be at this point. But doing that jump in 1 year, in my opinion, is too large. So my favor goes to the $500 increase for this year, and then as we go down the road, evaluated every, X amount of years too.
Okay, do you feel you have enough information to understand what's going on here?
Yes. So, I mean, and again, I look at this as in both eyes, right? If someone that, in the public that, we want to encourage development to continue to happen, right? So we want to keep that competitive, price compared to other municipalities while not, selling ourselves short on the value as well. And then also from, a budget point of view, we obviously want to cover our costs and get what we need as a city to cover our costs, obviously. But again, doing all that in 1 year, I think is too large of a jump.
Steve?
I've been listening to everybody else and considering what they were saying, and, I may reconsider what I was saying, which was 1,000. And, unless I have to make the decision right at this moment, I'm reconsidering from the 1,000 to the 500. We'll see, like I say, when we get to a final vote.
Well, we're gonna do it in a few minutes.
All right.
Well, I was originally in favor of the $1,000 raise, and, listening to everybody tonight, I don't think everybody realizes how much building is going on in this town at the current time. Everybody says it's been endemic and all this and that. It's not slowing the building down at all, as far as I can see. So, I'm still very much in favor of raising it 1,000. But I won't feel bad if the majority wants to go to 500. I could probably go along with that, reluctantly.
Any other comments? Somebody wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion for the $500 increase.
I'll second it.
Motion for 5, or any other motions?
Aye.
So motion for $500 increase? All in favor? Is anybody opposed?
Yeah.
One opposed?
Can I ask who made the motion and who seconded it?
Hold on a second. Don,
What?
you for 5 or 1,000?
5.
5. All right, Karen, so, Bill Miko made the motion, seconded by, did you second it? Who seconded? John Pushka seconded. Motion carries, 7-1, one against. So the motion carries for 500 per EDU.
And it was
Next
Ed
one.
who opposed it, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. Motion passes at 500. 6A, Waterview Drive. Mr. Swift, I'm gonna assume that's you?
Jim Swift, professional engineer. Yeah, this is,
Is it on? Is it on? Your mic.
Yeah, should be on. Here? This is a light industrial lot that for, some odd reasons of tenant requirements, we applied for a planned development district. And, we've since lost that tenant, and it's all gone back to, things that would normally fit right into a light industrial park, type of a zoning, but just because it's easier to do it administratively as a division of the planned development district, that's what we've been told. So right now you have, application in front of you. It's for a straightforward 70,000 square foot, light industrial building. The user is, it's a pretty light, intensity user as far as, people. He only needs 7 parking spaces for a building that size. But that's of course not how we calculated the discharge. We did it on square footage basis. There's no extension to the, municipal sewer system, so this is basically a straight up lateral, connection, to the main, water we got. And the commission has any questions regarding it.
let me ask a question.
Sure.
Get the conversation going. So Jim, this looks pretty straightforward. You're just taking, this proposed building and you're connecting it straight into the sewer right in front of it.
Correct.
And then, that looks like a pretty typical lateral.
Yeah, what we're gonna do is, we still got a little bit more research. When we originally did the project, a while ago, nobody was quite sure where the lateral was. This subdivision is only about, 20 years old, 25 years old, maybe, something like that.
At least.
So we're pretty sure there's lateral out there. We got a little more inspection to do. We're trying to figure out if we can find that lateral.
Yeah.
But worst comes to worst, we'll just drop our sign.
Yeah, so Mike, I don't really have much to review, so I think this is more of an administrative process and not like redoing a subdivision, for example.
Okay. Well, I understand you started over there.
Yes.
So in my book, my personal book, that's not right because you don't have an okay from us. Now, everybody tells me we're the most important board in this entire city. I believe it, I've been told that, but some days I don't think other people believe it. So by him starting, and I respect the developer, but you're starting on something you don't have approvals on. In my book, that's incorrect. Now,
That's not true, Mr. Chairman.
why is, fill me in, give me some information here, Jim.
6 months ago, we approached, planning and zoning, with the fact that we had a hot tenant, everybody is looking for a tenant that's willing to commit. So Mr. Cinto went to planning and zoning, and he was very frank with the commission, that he had a lot of earthwork to do out there, he'd like to get going.
But I hear nobody else, you have proof from P and Z and inland wetlands and everybody else?
Yes, we do.
I don't know, I heard different.
I happened to look at the, application that was filed by Mr. Cinto's.
Did you come in us 6 months ago for this?
No.
Right, that's my point, Jim.
Well, I mean.
Look, I'm not gonna make a big deal of it anymore, I'm gonna let it pass, but you didn't come to us telling us you had an important project, you went to other people, but why are we less important than anybody else? I'm being told,
That's not a fair characterization.
Yes, it is.
Not a fair characterization. If this was a project that was a 15-lot subdivision or a planned development district that proposed 15 condominiums.
Oh, if it's a PDD, don't talk to me.
I don't know, I don't wanna get you started on that, Mike, believe me, I don't. But, any of those things, and I can appreciate the comment. But I'm gonna revert back to the fact that this is a single light industrial lot that has a lateral, it's a single building.
I know.
And I don't mean to sit here and downplay what you're saying, I understand. Nobody wants to diss a commission and more than I do, so please believe me.
And I understand
I'm not trying to downplay it. However, having said that, Mr. Cinto did not go out there in the middle of the night and start cutting trees down. He was very upfront, he went to planning and zoning, he got permission from all those folks. And to tell you the truth, if anybody's gonna take the hit for this, for Mr. Cinto, it should be me and not him. Because I'm the one that tells him what the order is and how he goes to serve people. Now, just to digress a little bit, we're gonna start we'll talk about a planned development district tonight. For the last 20 years, it's always been the fact that you go to, if there's a wetlands impact, you go to wetlands first because you never know what they're gonna do. If there's no wetlands, then you go to planning and zoning next, because it's the kind of question, well, is planning and zoning gonna change the zone and modify what can be built, what can't be built?
And if you recall.
And I know what you're gonna say, but let me finish my statement.
That's why we did this.
Yeah,
To save you.
Yeah, to save me. But the historical process there was to go to planning and zoning first, then come to the WPCA. And that doesn't mean that WPCA can't say no. I mean, just because planning and zoning approves something, does not automatically grant approved by WPCA. Now, I will say that I understand that in the last couple of years, especially we all know the River Road project and the sewer issues that we had down there, Now things are starting to get, a little different now. Now it's almost to the point now where we feel if we're gonna do a plan development district, we almost need to go to everybody at once. You know? Nobody's first, nobody's last. I mean, and I appreciate that aspect is coming more to be common in planning zoning and, the WPCA relationship. So in the overall process of things in PDDs, yes, I understand it used to be you go to planning and zoning first, and then WPCA can say yes or nay. They don't have to follow what planning and zoning says. But now it's becoming a lot more common that, if you have a project that maybe even has something that's a little more sensitive with WPCA, then you go to WPCA first. And I'll also
No,
remind
you know why we.
years ago that I was told that I couldn't come here.
You know why we said no to that.
Yeah,
Because you guys were like a ping pong ball, back and forth, and we put a stop to his wait. Go to Rick Schultz, make sure that that's why that line, you know that. You know the history of that. So we're trying to help you guys out. Look, we can stop it because we only have like 17 minutes.
17 minutes.
We have to be out of here, so let's keep on moving with your project. Now, you're not on here. You're here for project?
Yeah, he's on here.
He's on, Don's on.
Where?
Second revised
Second application.
I gotta put my glasses on? Oh, I gotta put my glasses on. Sorry, Don. Sorry, Don.
Athens letters for
Yeah, I would be remiss though if can I make a motion on the sit-up truck? Would that be out of there?
No, what we're gonna, no, Jim, go back to Florida. No, you know what to do with next month, he's gonna come back, we're gonna vote on it.
Okay, that's fine.
So you know the how we work.
I understand.
Matt, you had made a point to the chairman in the beginning about this, application. Could you reiterate your thoughts?
Yeah, Mike, I can, as an administrative, just looking at this, I don't really have much of a role in the review of this, because it's just as vanilla as you get for a service connection. So I don't really have an issue with that. With these types of projects in the past, we typically discuss them at the WPCA meeting, and then afterwards I'll go into my office and update our spreadsheet that tracks the
Okay.
flow allocation, but we don't have to.
You're recommending that we approve it tonight?
Yeah, I'm not gonna have anything that's gonna change your opinion.
Okay, then we gotta deal with the benefit connection charge. So you can deal with that okay, so going on Matt's recommendation, anybody wanna make a motion on this job?
Don?
Make a motion on the water view?
Yeah. Motion from Ed, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I make a motion that we send the application on water view, Quorum Lot, D1, whatever it is, to our consulting engineer for approval.
He's recommending we approve it tonight, Ed.
He recommended approval?
Yeah.
Well, then I make the motion to approve the, connection from, Waterview, Quorum Lot, D1.
I'll second it.
Anyone second? Bill? Second by Bill Miko?
Give us some discussion.
What's that?
Can we have a discussion on that motion real quick?
Yeah.
I just wanna clarify what the benefit rate's gonna be.
Will the EDU be based on the?
On the new rate.
Or the new rate?
It's gonna be based on the new rate.
Yeah.
Sure, because it already was in motion.
I just wanna,
We passed the motion prior to this one.
I just wanna clarify that.
Yeah.
Okay, yep. Motion by, Ed and seconded by
Totally done.
Bill? Sorry, Bill.
That's okay.
Elderly moment. All in
The
favor?
mask is there, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, Don, next, Cedar View.
Okay, Cedar View is, we're all familiar with the,
Oh, you get a twofer again tonight.
it's a twofer, yeah. But I get the bill twice, though. The Carroll's was split into two projects, it's two separate buildings. This second building is up on the upper corner, basically diagonally across from, the town hall. And, we've succeeded in getting the initial development plan approval from planning and zoning at their last meeting. So now we're in a position to apply to this board for, the final. And again, this is a planned development district. It is, within the downtown development area, which is, I think, why the, Planning and Zoning Commission found the way that they did for 30 development units. We do have a connection directly out in Hill Street. We've done some excavation. We found a 6-inch existing lateral there. And I guess we'll see if staff feels that needs to be examined any further. But the plan that was submitted showed a good connection, because I was under the assumption that all the old laterals in Hill Street were 4-inch, and I wasn't comfortable with that size. 4-inch is good shape. I am more comfortable, so I think we'll
So where's your, not to stop you, you have an application? Am I,
Yeah, it's in, I told you, came in at the end.
did I not get the full package? Oh, okay.
I think they were printed.
Oh, you know what, here's what it is, my bad, go ahead. He gave us the new one. Go ahead, sorry, Jim.
Yeah, and that's the bottom line. It's gonna be a single line connection out into Hill Street. You know, there's no extension of sewer mains or anything of that nature.
Okay, so now back to my point again. This is not filled out correctly. Is this the final copy?
I'm gonna claim Florida residents and say I didn't.
Yeah, probably not.
Well, I'm just gonna tell you, Don, that this has been my bugaboo for years. I mean, and I'm not gonna tell you who. Somebody came in here one time, and we said, nope, see you later. Because again, some people feel they can do whatever they want to do, and they would, what do you mean? No, you didn't fill it out, bye. So, you know what, I'm a stickler for that kind of thing, because if we're gonna make it good for one person, it's gotta be good for everybody else.
We'll get.
So by rights, what I can tell you is, see you later, come back next month, and not even give it to Matt. Okay? But I'm not gonna do that, all right? I'm just gonna let you know, next month, you know how to fill this format. You've been here before. Jim's been here, he's representing you, so I'm in a nice mood tonight. I think.
We will square that with you.
Thank you. All right, so, well, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jim.
No, that completes it. You know, if the commission has any questions, they can read the drawings or submit it. We will square away that application, and we will assume that'll be issued to the.
Yeah, we've seen, you brought us the drawings the last time when you did the first phase, correct, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. As a matter of fact, we went around and around on that a little bit, because we were trying to figure out what the best way to connect both the commercial and the residential, and with staff's help, we figured out the best way to get that done and reward you.
Are these two-bedroom?
They're mostly studios, and the line is about to fill in a little bit of those questions.
Yeah.
They are mostly studios, there are one bedrooms. And even the one bedrooms, are mostly single people in them.
Yeah.
You know, and as Ernie seen when we connected, disconnected Carroll's and reconnected a new building, we actually repaired the damaged sewer that was in there. Water was coming down the hill, it was coming filled up, God only knows how long. And this is the same thing with the new connection on the houses that were there, we took the houses down, Ernie witnesses this connection, we're gonna connect right into that.
Yeah, well, no, I'm just saying, because, if you have mainly studio, the benefit connection is less.
Well, it's not considered one bedroom.
We'll have to look at that later.
I would love to look at that, because that was the other thing I mean, like, I'm listening to all this, it was, you know, I can't believe it, Ernie, I think it was 33,000 for the original hookup, and I understand, it's, you know, it's an apartment building, in the long run, that's fine. And now we just got, that I paid in July, and now we just got a fee of $8,000 or $7,000 for the, I guess, the sewer taxes, so.
you know, I guess you guys going up and us as developers, whatever, thinking, you know, I thought that was kind of a lot of money, but I'm listening to all this very clearly and I can see what you put into this.
See, I wish more people would understand the value of that plant. It's no longer a $40 million asset.
No, I understand.
Your house went up in value in 15 years, my house went up in value in 15 years. Well, why can't that plant go up in value?
Yeah, no, and
That's what it's worth now. So some people have a hard time understanding that, and I'd love for more people to know that, but of course, nobody cares about the WPCA until it's time. But that's okay, until it's time to come here, and then all of a sudden everybody cares about the WPCA. But that's why I love this board, because it's a, you know, we can either accept your flow or we can't.
Yeah,
It's that simple.
thank you.
We got sued 15 years ago with Avalon. Nope, we were told, nope, no good. That week, were you on the engineer there, maybe? That week, we got sued. The following month, we had to rescind it because it's simple. Either we accept your flow or we don't. We can't. We are getting to the point, and with the special meetings we have, we're getting to the point where capacity is getting to be an issue. That's why we're talking about sewer shed areas. So,
Well, but I mean, just on these two buildings here, that's an average of $60,000 for, it'll be within a year, 'cause this building's gonna go on, I just got the other one up quick, and I'm doing this one at the same time, I'm gonna keep moving along, and I like repairing and helping out as we go as well, when we see something, I just don't abuse the system and say, you know what, who cares, connect into it, you know, I wanna do things the right way, and, you know, but I also need to watch our clock. I mean,
yeah, I
it
understand.
costs me a fortune to build these buildings that I don't see years, it's gonna be a long time, but I wanna do things right, so it costs me a little more than the average guy. So, back to that, I'm sorry about filling that out.
It's okay.
I'm gonna yell at Jim when you leave anyway.
All right, so
That's everybody says, they blame the engineer.
all right, so we got 6 minutes, so you're all set, you know what to do with, Matt.
Yes,
All right, let's move on.
thank you.
All right, Don, thanks. Fuss and O'Neill, bills rendered, $1,020. See,
Move to pay, plus $1,020 for the house.
all in favor?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Sewer Administrator's report, make it quick there, Mr. Sewer Administrator. You got, 5 minutes.
Okay, first I
Thanks.
wanted to,
You got 5 minutes.
okay, first I just wanted to welcome, our new commissioners aboard. Next, our department, we had, some repairs we had 5 repairs and 8 new sewer installations that we witnessed. We also witnessed the installation of the sewer main and laterals in the property of 96 Long Hill Crossroads. A big one that we got off our plate was the Plaskin Drive Extension Sewer Main. The chairman's aware of that one, and I'm sure if the whole board was aware of that, but we got the Plaskin Drive main replaced. That was essential.
So we ended up spending how much on that again?
So initial was 18, and then it was under 25.
25,000, an emergency repair.
Yeah.
So that didn't have to come to the board.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, our department is requiring an as-built for every new, builder, and even if there's a repair, they can ascertain where the pipes are going. We're requiring an as-built on those. I just wanted the board to know there's quite a few developments being proposed at planning and zoning, so there's gonna be a lot coming down the pipe for you guys. Just wanted to give you a heads up on that. And then, you know, I wanted to let you know that, you know, our highway department is there, as Ed Aller has been a part of for many, many years. And, it's good to have them at our, you know, I don't want to say beckoning call, but, in support of us when we need them in emergencies in the middle of the night and so on. So I just wanted to do a shout out to them as a thank you. And that's all I have to say.
Any questions for Ernie?
How many feet of pipe was that for $25,000?
It was initially 150, and then they did an extra 30, so 180 feet of pipe.
Ernie and I were both out there. I went out there a couple times. We had no choice. And actually, the way Ernie decided to do the second piece was actually a better way. We didn't cross Constitution.
I'm just pointing out that it's
The cost.
pretty darn expensive for such a little piece of pipe.
Well, that's something I went over in my head knowing the numbers, and I thought so too, but we had
No, for your, not, it's justified for emergency repair, I'm saying like, that's the order of magnitude of numbers we're talking about.
Right,
Yeah.
correct. You knew the point you were coming from.
Last thing before everybody leaves, Bill, Eugene, you guys are all done. Just check the list. If it's okay, then keep it. If not, just give Ernie the update.
Mr. Chairman, real quick, as far as the future, are we still on for Wednesdays at 4:30, we holding those?
We're holding, it's on the list.
The reason why I'm saying is because a certain party that was in the back, Plan Z, wanted to nuzzle you out of, your meeting.
We're Wednesdays. You better check up on that. I thought you clarified that.
I just wanted to ask, make sure that everybody's good for 4:30 for the second Wednesday.
4:30, second Wednesday.
You know, with the 4:30, I know the special meetings, because we can't do the 7 o'clock.
Not
You know, add on another hour to the city hall, although it'll go beyond 4:30.
Okay, that's the point. Well, right now, it's still.
That's what we're gonna.
A good point.
Steve, that's what we're gonna try to do, but right now, we don't have the.
Point
7
well
o'clock
noted.
was beautiful when
Yeah, point noted, okay. So we're gonna book those for future.
Yep, it's voted on, so, I mean, you gotta make sure it's on the books.
Okay, and as the chairman pointed out, I need those sheets from all of you, if there's any corrections you'd like to make.
Mine's fine, so you can find.
Thank you.
Okay, Ed,
I'll make a motion, we close this meeting, right at the witching hour.
thank you, Ed. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you. Dan, if you're there, you can shut us down. Karen, thank you.
Good evening, guys.
Thank you.
Good night. Oh, sorry,
Brandon up to. You know, I know you're from somewhere.
Of course, hey, friends with Joe.
Okay.
We were talking about Woodstock last week.
Oh, my God.
And I saw your emails, Woodstock too.
Oh, my God. You know, I just wait
But it's the mad too. You're having in now. Thank you. Nice meeting you. Yep.
I didn't know about that last month, when they had it on the public.
Oh, really?
Well, until I got there.
Yeah, that's me. The Pennsylvanians, huh?
Oh, God. Yeah, through the face mask, through the
Yeah, so that's it. Yeah, we'll have to set up one time, right?
All the. See you later.
Good night, Tom. Yeah, gotcha. Okay, but, as far as contacting, it's okay, everything? Okay.
All right.
Sounds good, we'll be in touch.
On to you later.
Good night, guys. Nice job.
Ernie, can we take these drawings?
Yes, well, yeah, you can, sure. Yeah, I gotta shut each thing down.
Turn them off?
Yeah, I have to turn them all on, yeah. Thanks, if you need it, need them, here.
No. If you need them, take them.
No, we really don't need it, because they're gonna be,
Hey, instead of making a copy for everybody, just make one copy for the team.
I basically already made two copies.
Oh, you
That's all
did?
Yeah.
I thought there were more.
Well, that's
Okay,
an after that
Mike,
came in.
okay.
Ernie, it might be this one, this actually says low battery.
All right, well, I've gotta shut them all off.
I thought it was this, no, this one's though.
Today, off this meeting.
Oh.
He's the one that wanted to bump.
Yeah, he wanted planning and zoning to be here.
Good night, Bill.
Why is it,
Huh?
why did you wanna bump it?
They had some stuff on the agenda, I don't think